Asistimos a la inauguración de la Conferencia de la Asociación Internacional de Universidades 2019 y saludo la presencia de las autoridades que presiden esta inauguración. De la presidenta de la Asociación Internacional de Universidades y exrectora de la Universidad de Gotemburgo, doctora Pam Friedman.
The host of this International Association of Universities event, José Alfonso Esparza Ortiz, Rector of the Emeritus University of Puebla. Also with us, Juan Ramón de la Fuente, Permanent Representative Delegate of Mexico to the United States nation. And I welcome to all of the representatives and members of this International Association of Universities. Please feel welcome. And the word is given to José Alfonso Esparza Ortiz, Rector of the University of Puebla. Good afternoon. Please feel welcome, all of you, to the opening of the International Association of Universities 2019, where leaders and experts in higher education are going to analyze the perspectives of the future and the transformations that are needed for the accomplishment of all the objectives. We thank the presence of Pam Friedman, who is PhD and President of International Association of Universities and former Rector of Rothenburg University, and Dr. Juan Ramón de la Fuente, Ambassador and Permanent Representative of Mexico in the United Nations, and a member of this association. Thanks to all the experts, teachers, professors who are here with us today. This Congress, this topic, this central topic of this meeting has the goal of the ways we think the higher education should be. We think that the university should be something that goes farther than the buildings, something that is more than a group of the books, the publications, the infrastructure, or of all of the members, professors, and students. The university is a living being. The university is the heart of the society that grows. It's an ethical reference and is a hope of social permanent change. The role that should be given to the university regarding social and political activities is divided in our opinion in three parts. The university should be something to grow. The modern university is not only to create people that are going to work. The main objective is to form citizens that can adapt to their own environments, citizens that are capable of giving new definitions to old problems. On second place, it should be critic. The university is not only knowledge, it's also to be a good critical person through knowledge and take this to different places. The university is not to conform. Never should say it's enough. The university pushes us to new questions, not to say that something is true if it's not to be shown. And the university should be a researcher. The one that only creates and forms students forgets that the future can only go hand in hand with research. The university has transformed in the last path where we get innovation solutions for global problems. If we want that our country can walk with the rest of the world, we need the researchers. Also, the responsibilities that have the universities as part of their actioning for the joint world should be two main objectives: humanism and competitiveness. In the human part, we see that the world is not so personalized. The university is the last part for the transformation of the human being, a place where knowledge is developed, but also the capabilities and abilities that are going to make people can face any challenge. And competitiveness is every day eager of more and far away from citizens. The research, the science should be the pointing, and the capabilities of a country has to do with the abilities of the researchers. That's why we should always go into research. So these are thoughts, these are topics that are the things that we do every day, and I wanted to frame them in this inauguration ceremony for the International Association of Universities, and also to welcome you. Thank you so much, and that the work are a success. Next, the word is given to Dr. Juan Ramón de la Fuente, PhD, and permanent representative and delegate of Mexico to the United States, to the United Nations. Sorry. Thank you so much. Good afternoon to all of you. Before I share with you some reflections, of some formal reflections that I prepared for this ceremony, to tell you, and I am going to say this in Spanish to continue with the protocol and not in English as I was told to do it in Spanish. That for me, it's really important to be part of this Congress, rector, president, just because of the really meaningful that I am in an institution that some years ago gave me a PhD as an honoris causa, and that makes me to go into the best causes of this institution. And also because some years ago, when I was a rector of the UNAM, I had the privilege of being part of the Council of International Association of Universities, and later to be the president of this association in the term that I remember with a great emotion and really grateful. So for me, it was impossible not to accept the invitation that I was given. And I am very, very happy to share with you this opening ceremony. Transforming higher education for the future. Déjenme comenzar diciéndoles a todos ustedes que la IAU es una asociación global y esto es una idea inicial que yo quiero compartir con ustedes porque es extremadamente importante. Hay muchísimas asociaciones de universidades que son regionales, locales e internacionales, pero yo creo que IAU realmente es una global. Y esto es muy importante porque nosotros estamos liderando un tiempo donde casi todo asunto importante que nos llega a afectar a nosotros está realmente interconectado. Y yo realmente creo que los asuntos globales, los problemas globales, requieren soluciones globales. Si no, nosotros no vamos a solucionarlos. Y si nosotros tenemos una asociación global de instituciones universitarias, es una oportunidad extraordinaria para poder ver sí, en ocasiones problemas específicos. Y esto es importante porque nosotros tenemos que enfrentarnos en bases diarias a problemas locales muy específicos, pero también
And we learn a lot
y
from
nosotros
sharing
aprendemos
experiences
mucho de
and
compartir
best practices
experiencias
and
y
all,
las mejores
every
prácticas, etcétera.
one
Y
of these issues that you
todos
frequently
esos
review.
asuntos que
But the great
frecuentemente
opportunity
se hablan, pero la gran
is
oportunidad
to look at
es
higher
ver
education
a la educación superior
in its global problems
en sus problemas
and the
globales
possibility
y
to
la
build up
posibilidad de poder
some
construir
global solutions.
soluciones globales.
So that, for
Así que
IAU, remains, in my
para
opinion, to be
IAU, en
a
mi
most
opinión,
important
esto es lo
asset.
más importante.
And when we talk about some of those
Cuando
global
nosotros
issues,
hablamos acerca de estos
all of
asuntos
them
globales,
have
todos
to do
ellos
with
tienen
higher
que ver
education,
con la educación
from
superior,
climate crisis
de la
to
cuestión
waves of
de
intolerance,
los precios, las
or
olas de
from
intolerancia,
rising inequality
o
to
las cuestiones de
harnessing
inequidad,
technologies for
las
good.
nuevas tecnologías.
If we want
Si nosotros
to make a contribution
queremos dar realmente
on
una
significant issues of
contribución
our
en
times,
asuntos
such as
significativos de nuestros
gender
tiempos,
equality
como la equidad de
or
género,
migrants and
o
refugees,
los refugiados y los
if we
migrantes,
want to
si
amplify
nosotros queremos
and promote
amplificar y
the voices
promover
of the
las
young people,
voces de las
which are so
personas
much needed
que están en necesidad
for peace and security and many of the other issues that we're dealing with daily and unsuccessfully, as we have seen yesterday and the day before, and probably as we will see also tomorrow, looking at what's happening globally in some of the societies where universities belong. So I am truly convinced that only international cooperation
la cooperación internacional
will help us to
nos
make
va a ayudar
a
a
contribution
nosotros para poder hacer una
from
contribución
higher education institutions that
desde
may
las
have
instituciones de educación
some
superior
global
que quizá
impact.
puedan tener un
And
impacto
that,
global.
my dear colleagues and
Y
friends,
mis queridos colegas
in
y
my
amigos,
perspective,
en mi perspectiva,
is the
esto es
right context for
el
IAU.
contexto correcto
So we
para
can
IAU.
do a number of things in different programs, activities, conferences, networking, whatever. But we need to keep in mind the context where IAU has to keep moving. And I truly believe this is the context, and it's a great context, because I know no other associations that can have such a wide
porque ninguna otra
and
asociación
inclusive
tiene
context.
un contexto tan inclusivo.
And what is the role of universities in contributing to understand and eventually solve some of these problems? And I'm very happy that the rector has just said what he said, and we have been talking a few minutes earlier, how important is these days for universities to really become much more engaged with the multiple stakeholders that are part of our daily work. We cannot do it by ourselves. The idea of a university or a higher institution, education institution, isolated, dedicating its energy, its effort, its intelligence, its talent, and its resources only to satisfy the interests or the curiosities of their own faculty and students as well. That's completely insufficient these days. That's the type of institution that is, in many aspects, very opposite from the institution that wants to become globally engaged. Because otherwise we will lose the main perspective and the main reason for us to exist. And that is that we're dealing with people and people's life. And let me tell you something that I am truly convinced of. I may be wrong, but I'm completely convinced of. To solve many of the problems that we haven't been able to solve so far, they must be in real life of people. If those problems do not become to be real in people's life, it is unlikely we're going to be able to manage them better than we're doing it now. And we, at universities and higher education institutions, have the opportunity to do that, particularly our students, but our faculty as well. We need to somehow transmit and convince our communities to begin with that if we want to make a contribution to solve some of those problems, they must be made real in every one of us' life. And I think that's part of the responsibility of education in general, by the way, and higher education in particular. So we must acknowledge that we live in times where trust is low in general, and anxiety is high. Those are two of the dimensions of our daily life. We have lost trust, and we all, to some extent, are a little bit anxious. And I'm not saying that because I'm a psychiatrist. I am, but it's not because of that. It is not a diagnosis. It's a perception. There is a degree of anxiety in society and individuals because we have lost trust, because we are frustrated. People are frustrated. Our students are frustrated. Our faculty is frustrated. I think most people is frustrated because, you name it, there may be some common grounds for it. Unmet expectations, and I think inequalities. I think inequalities makes us lose trust. And unmet expectations, the expectations of the young students these days, are no longer satisfied by the fact that they are admitted or that they can enter at a higher education institution or a university. Again, we talk about that with the rector. That used to be part of the situation in the past, but no longer. To be admitted at a university, to grant a degree from a university, does not necessarily meet the satisfaction of young people. It is no longer enough. So what universities had done traditionally is no longer enough to meet young people's expectations about their own lives and their own future. And therefore, the question that I ask myself is, what else should we do? Or what is what we have not been able to do, what we should have been doing so far? Because universities used to be, in many people, for many years, for many generations, the simple fact that you were admitted at a certain university, particularly if it was the university you had wanted, that was enough to meet your expectations. You sort of knew that your future was not necessarily solved, but it was not as uncertain as others. So that is no longer true. And therefore, the next question that I would pose, if it's true that people are frustrated and because of unmet expectations, and all of these possible reasons, the question is, what do we want higher education institutions to be in this context? Do we want them to be a source of frustration, or do we want them to be part of the solution? I think it is not an irrelevant question, because I have the impression that at least at times, many of our institutions, or some of them, and this is a self-criticism. Up until the last few months, I've been on the university all of my life, and I will come back sooner than many of you may think. So this is a self-criticism. Why is it that we haven't been able to be part of the solution? Universities were part of the solution. At least that's what we thought. Many of us thought, I thought that when I decided to go to medical school. I thought that when I decided to become part of the faculty. I thought that when I wanted to be dean of my school and rector, because I was convinced that universities were part of the solution. Now, let me tell you, a few years afterwards, I have questions. I think at times we have also been part of the frustration, because some of our students have told me that, because many of the graduates have told me that, because I've read about many of what they say and what their perspectives are, and might not be the case all the time, but I think that argument requires to be reviewed in the proper dimension, not over-representing it, but not undermining it either. Now, I think for higher education institutions to be part of the solutions, which I think that's why we are here, why we remain here, we need to begin with something that, let me tell you, IAU has been sustaining for quite some time now. And I see Eva Egron here among us, and she won't let me lie how many times we said in how many different forums, conferences, at UNESCO, at multilateral platforms, we said many times, without being very successful, that we, higher education institutions and universities, needed full engagement of multi-stakeholders to allow us become more efficient and fulfill our role. And I remember a number of conferences that were exclusively dedicated to the relationship of university and the multiple stakeholders. And we discussed it and we reviewed it and we all agreed, or most of us, and yet I still think it's something that we have not achieved at plenty, at least in many countries. I think including mine. Here are some very good rectors and very active faculty members, and they may disagree with me. But my point is, in any case, is that we universities need more cooperation. We need partners. Academia, to become effective these days, needs partners. Businesses, civil society, governmental agencies, local, regional, global partners. We need more networking. We cannot alone. We cannot. If we remain by ourselves, I'm afraid we will remain more part of the frustration than of the solution. To recognize that we need partnerships and that we need to make it effective is something that needs to be widespread. We have some very good examples of institutions that have been able to achieve that to a better extent than others, and we can compare. And these kind of surveys have also been conducted by IAU, and I think are very valuable, because we can compare what has worked, regardless of the context, and what has, let me put it in soft words, worked less. So, for the future of higher education institutions, there are many, many things, and I don't pretend to be exhaustive in these few minutes, but I would like to share with you the two main domains that I think are absolutely relevant. One has to do precisely with the multi-stakeholders partnership. I think it has to be a must. And the second is where also I think we can make some very substantial advancements. And it has to do with what is now being defined as innovative cross-sectoral investments. We need also to make some innovation in the way resources are invested in higher education. And I think they are much more promising, those investments, if they are cross-sectoral than if they are not. And that also, I think, allows to make some changes in our own perspective of institutions. Let me end by saying a couple of more things. One, which I think we all agree, but it's not sufficient to state it, is that higher education is both an outcome and a driver of economic and social progress. And it is not something irrelevant. I can't think of many other social processes that are both part of the outcome and a driver of economic and social progress. Maybe health could be put on a similar perspective. So, but we need to position higher education as the best example that exists for sustainable financing. And that, I think, we need to become more visible and to review our narrative and to be able to convey the message with more power and with more efficiency. If these days we're talking about sustainable financing, I can think of no better example than higher education institutions, where really financing can become a sustainable process for all society. And let me end up by trying, I said, well, I have put these ideas, but now I think I need to become more practical. Can I come up with a practical example to share with my colleagues about many of these concepts? And I've tried. I have one example. And it's an example that had to do with something I think that we almost have as part of the DNA of higher education institutions, particularly in the last recent years, and have to do with data. Universities are obsessed with data. We need to generate data. We need to document with data all we do, what we teach. But no, I think sometimes there are other things than data. But let me stick into that, data. Well, let me tell you that in these last few months that I've had an opportunity to represent my country in this multilateral complex institution, I've come to realize that the number of decisions that are taken in the world based on wrong information is amazing. It's amazing. No? Even worse. I've noticed that sometimes we try to bring solutions to problems we do not have. Why? Because we don't have the data. We don't have the data to clarify the nature of the problem that we're trying to solve. And here, let me tell you, I think my academic background has helped me to see that perspective. I see these discussions. Some of them are very clever, always, or almost always. Someone says something very interesting, and that's right. But then I realize that they are lacking information. They don't have sufficient data. And decisions are being made, and I'm talking of examples worldwide, based on wrong information. Well, I think higher education institutions are best suited to help us overcome that. We dedicate lots of efforts, energy, research to gather reliable data. We are very wealthy on that. No one else has that wealth. No other set of institutions in the world have the data that universities do have. So I think we have to make a better use of that. Be sure that that is part of a contribution that we can make, so problems can be analyzed from a different perspective and decisions can be made on more sound basis. How about making decisions outside the university with the same sound roots where many of our researchers work on a daily basis? So I wish you, my dear friends, very good luck in your future agenda, which is the reason of this conference. And you can count on me as one of yours. I'm still aboard. And thank you very much to IAU, and thank you very much to BUAP for inviting me to be part of this inauguration this afternoon. Thanks a lot.
Distinguidos asistentes, hace uso de la palabra la doctora Pam Friedman, presidenta de la Asociación Internacional de Universidades y rectora de la Universidad de
Association of the
Gothenburg.
Universities and former rector of Gothenburg University has the word. Así que, rector, colegas y amigos, yo les doy la bienvenida a esta conferencia internacional de
I will come
IAU.
back. I thank you very much for all the words you said, Ramon. Rector, I thank you very much for having us as a host. And as I told you before, I would like to thank everyone in this university who had helped so much to arrange this conference. It takes a lot of efforts to make a good conference, and we don't know the success because it's just starting, but I know already from being here several days, and we had the GMA meeting, that it is very well arranged. We are very well taken care of. And also the staff at the IAU, you have done a fantastic job. And you have together set the scene. Every arrangement is here. The topic is here. It's up to us now to use this meeting, bringing together all these people who has a lot of knowledge, who has a lot of experience to share, taking advantage of now, taking these 2 days, and when we're going back, we will call the Puebla meeting, hopefully. And that's up to you, and I think you will do it. I'm not going to introduce much or more of IAU at this moment because I think that Ramon Lafuente did that very nice. But after that speech, I'm saying I'm even more proud of being the president for this organization, which I believe play an important role together with all the members and all the associations, and also that we can be a very powerful voice for higher education, which is a threat. And we will discuss that through many days. It came up today. I mean, we are traveling, we are meeting here, we are coming from all over the world. We are making a lot of climate footprints. So, and we should do that because we have to meet, we have to be international. But when we do meet, we should take the advantage of being at the same place. Something else, something additional than talking by video links or talking by emails, to meet people and really discuss. So what I will do right now is that I really want to encourage you to have thoughtful discussion, trustful discussion, and be the critical voice in the discussions as we should be as academics. And bring up things to the floor, attend in the meeting in discussion so that we can all share the experience and the knowledge we have. And we should not stay here. And you said, what are we going to the future? We should go from here, from the Puebla meeting, and say, from there we have some ideas on how to transform the higher education for the future. But we should start with enjoying ourselves. So I would like to invite you now to food, and I think that there will be some entertainment, and we will have Mexican food. Take that as a start and relax and enjoy and meet new friends. Don't just stick to those you know from years back. So welcome everyone, and again, thank you very much for hosting us for this event.
Señoras y señores,
Ladies
distinguidos
and gentlemen,
asistentes,
distinguished members, we inaugurate the International Association of Universities Congress. We thank for the authorities that were at the panel today, and please be welcome for the dinner party in room number 4 of this convention center. You go out of the door and turn left.
Will be in the back of this room. For the president.